Hi, this is Jill from Humu Yoga, and this is the full practice. Today we're working with the theme of momentum. I do these themed classes every week as a way of finding a focus that inspires us to go inside, and then maybe we can take it somewhere off the mat as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So starting with the hands by your sides, just take a moment to engage in pelvic floor, and we call that Mula Bandha. So you just engage, just so that you notice those muscles are working. And then right above that, below the belly button, draw the belly back and feel a sense of lifting upward. We call that Uddiyana Bandha. It means flying upward. And then at the top of the spine, gently draw the chin down. We call that Jalandhara Bandha, or chin lock, and we seal in the bandhas. And now we're supported from the inside, so we can go ahead and just release the hands and begin to focus on the breath. So as you inhale, feel the rib cage expand. And then as you exhale, you feel the rib cage draw closer together. So just focusing on the inhalations, the openings, and the exhalations and the releases. And one more big inhale and exhale. And now let's take the hands together in prayer position by the heart, and let's vibrate together with the mantra Om. And then I'll recite the momentum quotes. Inhale. People who succeed have momentum. The more they succeed, the more they want to succeed, and the more they find a way to succeed. Everything is energy. Your thoughts begin it, your emotions amplifies it, and your action increases its momentum. Commitment is the igniter of momentum. Momentum demands movement. Turn every no into a not yet to keep the momentum going. Momentum. We've already created momentum just by getting started and getting centered. So let's keep it going. Let's start to move. So we'll just come to all fours. And from here, let's go ahead and just warm up the spine a little. Round the spine, just opening it up. And pull the belly way in as you do that. And then inhale, come forward and arch the back and feel the sternum open. And one more time, exhale, curl the spine. And then inhale, find that opening of the sternum. And let's curl the spine one more time. And this time we'll take it to downward facing dog. And just pause here and notice what's going on in your body today. Maybe you need to bend the knees for a little bit to get the chest closer to the legs, and then slowly start to straighten the legs. And do what feels good in your body. Bend maybe and straighten, tuning into the breath. And just notice what's tight today, what's going on in your body. And then let's slowly walk up. So just take your time, slowly making your way up to the front. And we'll hang here for a moment, just as long as you need, just letting the head go for a moment. And then let's slowly curl up the spine so you can soften your knees, take your tail under and curl and come all the way up to the top. Shoulders fall into place, the head arrives, and just take a moment and notice where you are right now. And then step everything together in Samasthiti, standing still and straight and ready to start this full practice. Today we're going to focus a little bit on the actions of the pelvis and the hips. And I'm going to work with 2 blocks and just a little towel. So if you have those, you want to grab them, go get them. And if not, you don't need them. You can modify in other ways. So we'll just go ahead and get started with Surya Namaskar A. Inhale, reach the arms up, warming up with the sun salutations. Exhale, fold. We're trying to get the most out of every movement. Inhale, lengthen. Let's go ahead and take it back. Now hold your plank. So notice, does your pelvis, does your butt stick out? Or can you take that tail under without collapsing? Push up, widen across the shoulders. I'm taking my knees down for a modification of a push-up, but you don't have to if you can do a full push-up. Draw the elbows back as you lower down, keeping that body nice and straight. Rise up, and then we're going to take it through to upward facing dog. And then here too, see if you can keep the tail under, lift the sternum, and then we'll slowly take it back to downward facing dog. And breathe. Inhale, keeping your belly lifted. Notice, is your butt kind of curled under, or can you really lengthen through the hamstrings? And breathe. Inhale and exhale, and reach through the upper body. If you need to keep your knees bent to open the shoulders more, you can. Just do what feels better in your body. And then let's slowly make your way up, 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 and fold. I know change in the body sometimes happens very slowly, but with consistency and momentum, it happens. And exhale. Let's do it again. Inhale and exhale. Maybe it feels a little deeper with the second one. And look up. Maybe you can tippy toe and take it back to plank. Find a strong plank and keep that plank as you lower. I like to do push-ups here because they're helping build strength, push up, and getting the most out of each movement in these sun salutations. Tail under, sternum lifted, and exhale, downward facing dog. And just breathe here. I like to really remind myself to keep this belly lifted. Inhale and exhale. Just tuning into the breath. Inhale and exhale. One more. And slowly making your way up. Press and lift and fold. Inhale, lengthen, and we'll rise up. And exhale, hands down. Now we'll go to Surya Namaskar B. Bend the knees. This is where I like to use the blocks, just to create more height. Reach the arms. And exhale, fold. And inhale, lengthen. If you want to try jumping back, keep your shoulders where they are, lift up, float back, find that nice plank. And if you need to, lower the knees as you lower, keeping that spine long. Rise up, coming through, sternum lifts, tail under, and exhale, downward facing dog. Let's go ahead and step the right foot forward. So the blocks help, gives you height to lift that leg up there. We're gonna rise up to high lunge, reach your arms. Now you're gonna bend, keep the arms reaching, gaze down the nose and straight ahead. Start to bend the back knee, keeping the tail under. Just go as low as you can. And then we'll rise back up and inhale here, lift up to go back. Keeping that tail under on that left side, lifting up to go back. And then inhale here, reach forward and take the hands down. And then find the plank. And then we'll lower, keeping the belly in. And rise. And come through, lifting the sternum, keeping the tail under again. And downward facing dog. Left side. Step it up there. And we'll rise up into high lunge. Reaching way up. Now let's bend the back knee and take the tail under as you do that. And just lower as much as you can in your body. Pause. And then rise, reaching that back heel, and then lift up. Keep that tail under on that right side as you lift. Keep pulling the left hip back, lift up, and then start to reach forward and take the hands down and step back. And then from here, lowering, keeping that belly in, lift up, come forward, really lift the sternum, tail under, and take it back, downward facing dog.
And breathe. Inhale, feeling all the length. Exhale, in the upper body, in the lower body, in the hamstrings, the calves. And a couple more breaths. Notice, can you kind of lift the sitting bones a little bit and yet still try and push the heels down? And then find a target if you want to try jumping up and get a lot of lift. Push down with the hands, lift the hips up high, and put the feet down. And then bend the knees, reach the arms, and come to standing. One more Surya Namaskar B. Bend the knees, reach the arms. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lengthen. Come to your tippy toes, maybe, and float back. Boom. And then we're gonna lower and rise and come through and downward facing dog. And now we're just gonna come into warrior one. So step forward, take your back foot down, start to rise. Reaching, keeping this tail under, bend the front knee, lift the sternum, gaze down the nose and up, breathing, and start to come forward. Keep pulling that left butt back, reach, take the hands down, and we're gonna lower, belly in, and then rise, and come through. Big breath in as you lift the sternum, tail under, and downward facing dog. Warrior one, the other side. So stepping the left foot forward, take your right foot down, it turns out slightly. Inhale, reach up, tail under, especially on that right side. And it's okay to have your hands apart if together doesn't work well. And come forward. We're just trying to get the most out of every move in a way that works in your body. Good. And then we'll lower and rise and come forward, tail under, heart lifts, and we'll take it back, downward facing dog. Now breathe. Nice long inhalations and exhalations. Noticing, can you keep your belly really lifted? Inhale and exhale. And feel the breath circulate through your whole body. And then if you want to jump up, find a gaze point, push down with your hands, lift the hips up and put your feet down. And fold. Bend the knees, reach the arms, and let's come to stand. And then from here, take your feet hip width, and we'll come into Uttanasana. So pull your belly way in. Feel the lift of your belly as you come forward. And you're hinging right at your hip sockets, right here. All right, coming forward. And then from here, try and keep your back really long and straighten your legs as best you can. Rest your hands on your legs somewhere. And notice, can you hold that position? If your hips go back because you need a little bit more assistance, that's fine, but just stay where you can. It's a little bit more intense as you draw the hips forward over the ankles more. So just do what feels good in your body, but try to straighten your legs as best you can and gently, gently breathe here. And now inhale, go back to that flat back position. Feel the hinge at your hips as you rise up. And then we'll step everything together at Samasatihi. So the hips are so mobile, right? They do so many things. And we're gonna talk about that a little bit. So let's go ahead and step out. Especially in the standing postures, really understanding it can really help the postures, your balance in the postures. So this is internal rotation. When you turn the back foot in, the hip turns inward to the center. And then this one, the front foot, we're gonna come into Trikonasana, the front foot turns out. And you feel that external rotation. And then from here, we're gonna come into Trikonasana, but I forgot to set up my blocks. So I'm gonna do that now. I'm gonna use one on the outside of my right foot and the other on the outside of my left foot. So finding that internal rotation, external rotation, reach the arms and start to come into the pose. Now make sure your block is under your armpit, or you could be here if you didn't want to use a block. or you didn't have one. And then keep finding that external rotation, but you have to balance it with the big toe, right? So even though there's internal rotation in the back leg, you balance it with the baby toe. And stay there, and now turn the ribs and reach. And then inhale, rise up. And let's go to the other side. So internal rotation on the back leg, external rotation in the front leg, reaching. Inhale, and then reaching up. And turning now the ribs. But the legs, the hips are in place and it's strong. Reach. And then inhale and rise up. So let's go to Parighasana Trikonasana, where you turn the back foot in and the front foot is straight ahead. The hip is not turning out or turning in, but there's a balance. So starting to come forward here, we can reach the left arm, pull the right hip back. Notice does your foot want to turn out or in, and balance it. You have to balance that out. And then pulling the right hip back, lengthening the crown of your head away from your tailbone as you turn. Breathe. Inhale. Exhale. And now inhale, start to come up. And you'll notice that's a balance pose. And you'll notice your feet want to, they're working. The rotators are really working to balance each other out. So turn that right hip in, pull the left hip back, reach across. And notice what that front foot wants to do. Can you really root it down? And then it goes up into the hips. And turn, breathing. And then inhale here and rise up. And now we're gonna come into Warrior Two, which is the same hip position as Trikonasana. Turn the back foot in and the front foot out. Maybe the stance is a little longer. And we'll bend straight down. So try not to lean forward. Try and keep your ribs this way, but then you gently turn your gaze. So we're not turning the body, and you're feeling that external rotation. Breathe. And then from here, we'll come into Baddha Konasana. You can circle this top arm, keep the legs the same, and start to come into the pose. So you're reaching. I really feel a lot of external rotation in this front leg here. And breathe. And then inhale, rise up. We'll go to the other side. So turn the right foot in, the left foot out, and bend. So we're not turning the ribs, right? The ribs are stayed this way, but we turn our gaze. Breathe. And then from here, Uttanasana, Parighasana, side angle, circle, and reach. And slowly turn, gazing down the nose to look up, breathing. And then inhale and rise up. We're gonna come into Parighasana. So coming down to the floor, bending the back knee. Take a moment to just feel this tail under here. So these are the hip flexors stretching, and then you're really pulling back with the right hip. And then from here, we're gonna come across. So take that left elbow across, but keep these hips strong, especially the right butt. Keep it pulling back. And then if you keep your gaze down, it's a little easier as you rise up. You can gaze down to that front leg and notice all the muscles in that right butt working. Turning. Maybe you take your gaze up, maybe not. Breathe. And then inhale. Now you really feel it as you rise up. And we'll go to the other side. So slowly coming down. You could use your hand if you needed to. And then just for a moment, feel this tail under on that right side and the left butt pulling back. And then we'll come across. You can even turn your shoulder in to do that. Now we're really going to use the left butt a lot. Tuck the back toe under and you pull that left butt back and then try to turn. I'm pressing my hands to heart center, turning my right ribs. Maybe your gaze goes up, maybe not. And then inhale and rise up. Yeah, it feels a little shaky, but that's good. Those muscles are working to balance each other out. Restorative Backbend. Spread out. Intense forward bend, right? the hips are not turning out and they're not necessarily turning in. There's a balance, but there's a sense of turning in as you come forward. So pull the belly in, but you have to balance that with the baby toe side too. So from here, start to come down. If you need to use your block for your head, you can always do that, right? But otherwise, just try and make a nice right angle. And we're trying not to turn the toes out. So there is a sense of internal rotation at the hip. Inhale, look up and lengthen and rise up. Whereas when we come into goddess pose, we're turning out. So the wider you go, the more intense this pose is. And see if you can sit straight up when you do this pose, and don't tuck your pelvis under. So you're sticking the butt out a little bit, but you're coming straight down and not leaning forward. And that's how you get the most out of this pose, most out of your hips. And breathe. And then inhale, we'll rise up. And let's come to Samasthiti. Standing still and straight. Now we're going to try a couple of one leg balances that start with a two-legged standing pose. So we'll do Trikonasana to Ardha Chandrasana, and then we'll do Warrior 1 into Warrior 3. So I'm actually going to put the block on the high level to make it pretty accessible. And we'll step out and we'll turn. Remember, the left hip turns in, the right hip turns out. And we'll come into Trikonasana. So inhale, reach, keep pulling that hip back and look up. Now we're going to make our way to transition to Ardha Chandrasana, but the hips are doing the same thing. So we bend the front knee, lighten up and lift that block up. Put it right under your armpit. Keep your gaze down to start. And then find external rotation in that right leg to give you balance. And reach up, and try not to turn the front leg out. I'm pressing through the big toe mound. And to come down, lighten up, put your block down, and lift up. And we'll do the other side. So right foot turns in, left foot turns out. Utthita Trikonasana, and coming into the pose. And then from here, the legs are going to do the same thing, but the right leg is in the air. Put your hand right under your armpit. Lift up. And I'm externally rotating the front leg, pressing through the big toe mound of the leg that's in the air and turning. And to come out, keep it soft. Reach up and rise up. Now we're going to try Warrior 1 to Warrior 3. This one's a little tricky. Let's give it a go. So we'll bend into Warrior 1. This one's, both hips are straight ahead. You don't have one turning out. And then from here, we're going to come into a lunge and lift up into Warrior 3. So keep your waist long and really reach. Really reach. You can feel that right butt really working. And then step back, lifting up. And we'll transition to the other side, bending, and then we're going to come into Warrior 3. So lifting, keep pulling that right butt back, reaching, 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 and then stepping back, rising up, and bringing everything back to the center. Very good. Now we're going to make our way down to the floor and get into some deeper, nice hip openers. So we'll vinyasa there. Inhale, reach your arms up, and exhale, fold. Grabbing your blocks, if you're going to use them, to transition down to the floor. So I'm just going to step up, cross, cross. I just like to practice this. Lift up if you can. See if you can balance. Come down, no worries if you can't, but the blocks help. And just sit for a moment. We're going to come into a couple of drills that are mobility drills, actually, that my coach, John Barnes, has given to me that have really taken my yoga practice into a much deeper place. So I want to share them with you. So this first one is called 90-90, and it's like pigeon pose. And pigeon pose is hard for a lot of people. This one I think is accessible to most. So it's 90-90 because you're making a 90-degree angle at the front leg and a 90-degree angle at the back leg. And it's okay to be sitting on this right hip. And this, you're feeling internal rotation with the back leg and external rotation with the front leg. And then we're just going to come into this forward bend and really try to press your ribs down to your thigh, and maybe even try to lift the knee up a little bit so there's some energy going on. And then just notice where you feel that stretch and breathe into it. So inhale. Even if you're up here, everybody's going to be different. Everybody's hips are so different. And breathe. Inhale. Trying to find release. Just breathe. Inhale and exhale. Now inhale, rise up. We're going to go over to the left foot. I mean the right foot. That would be impossible. So go over to your right foot and coming down this way. Trying to get your head towards that foot. And breathe here. Inhale and exhale, just nice deep breaths wherever you are. And then inhale, rise up. Now let's focus on this internal rotation for a moment. Can you turn that in more and sit way up, way up? This really is a good prep for pigeon pose. Lift up. And just notice that internal rotation. It's a little bit more unusual. And then we're going to take this to the other side. So to get there, you could use your hands behind you. Just kind of flip your one knee up, right? You're going over to the left side now. And you try and find the 90-90 again. So adjust as you need to. 90 degrees, 90 degrees. And then from here, we're going to come over the left knee. Take your chest to the knee and try to resist the knee off the floor. So it's like you're pulling the knee up a little bit, just to feel that. It's really active. It's working and stretching. Breathe. And just stay here, breathe. Inhale and exhale. For me, I like to breathe into the stretch and see if it can dissolve a little bit. And then rise up. Let's go over to the right. So we're going over the left foot, but it's to the right. And same thing here. Just see if you can open, breathe. So inhale, exhale, find release. And then inhale, rise up. And now focus on turning this left inner thigh in. It's inner rotation. It's going in, lift up, internal rotation, lift. And now we're going to go back to the front of the mat. Maybe you want to use your hands behind you, or maybe you want to try just lifting up. It's a little drill sometimes we do. Just see how loose you are in your hips. Can you open? Just play around with that. And then we're going to do one more drill where we're going to come into a deep glute stretch. It's more piriformis. So you're going to pull, I think I'll teach this facing you because it's hard to see. So we'll take the left leg in and the right ankle on top. And from here, we're going to come into a forward bend. So I'm trying to take my left shoulder to my right foot as best I can. You could use your hand here. I'm trying to get this shoulder. So this hip is up and I'm hugging the knee in. And just see if you can get a nice stretch back here. So I'm hugging the knee in. I'm trying to drop my shoulder down. The head comes down. Maybe you could take both hands here and just breathe into this. See how that feels. You can maybe turn, shoulder down to the foot, down to the foot. And it's okay if the butt comes up. And then inhale, rise up. And since we're in the position, let's go ahead and go to Ardha Matsyendrasana. So from here, just lift up and take a turn. There's an energy of the right sitting bone to the left heel, but it's okay if the hips turn a little, but you try not to turn the hips, but more the ribs. Maybe your elbow comes to the other side. Just find a lot of lift.
breathing. And come back to the center. Let's go to the other side. So now the right leg will bend and the left ankle comes right to the top if you can. And then we're going to take this right arm down. So I'm trying to get my right shoulder down to my right foot as I pull this left knee in. But just see how that feels. Pulling, shoulder down. Maybe your hand is here. Just do what feels good in your body. Breathe. Inhale. Hopefully it's deep in these left glutes. And then inhale, rise up. And we'll take Ardha Matsyendrasana. So for Ardha Matsyendrasana, try half Lord of the Fishes. Try to get your left hip down as best you can and start to come across and lift up. There's an energy from that left hip going to your right foot. So you're turning the ribs. Inhale and exhale. And then inhale, come down back to the center. Now we're going to come into Baddha Konasana, but we'll use the wall. So it's nice if you have never tried it. It's a nice inner thighs now. The inner hips we're stretching. So you can use that to lift up, find your way, and just take a moment. And you could even resist here and then push down. And do that a few times. You resist your push and then you let the push win. And then find a place where you can stay and just hold. But make sure you're sitting up and you're not rounded, right? And if this feels really good and you want to take it into a forward bend, by all means, go there. But if this feels good, this is nice. And your back will really tell you if it's lengthened, right? You can feel it if it's rounded into the wall. So lift up out of that. Breathe. And then inhale and letting that come up. Let's go ahead and sit in Dandasana. I'm going to use the blocks for this next one. We're going to put the blocks so that we lie over them, one under the shoulder blades and the other one for the head. So start in Dandasana. Sit up as tall as you can. Let's take a little forward bend to start. Reaching forward. Breathing. If you need to bend your knees, you can do that, or you could use your towel, right? And really straighten the legs, but make sure you're hinging from your hips. Breathing. Inhale, lift up. And we're going to do a roll back onto the blocks. So taking a breath in and exhale, start to curl your spine back, curling back, noticing where your blocks are. So you're trying to have one under the shoulder blades, right? And then the other one. So it's right, if you know where your sternum is, the block is right under it at this corner. And feel that. And then let's go ahead and bend the knees and reach the arms. And with the knees bent, you want this sense of the tail drawing back so that you get this radial expansion, this torso, this back bend, and it's even. It should feel good. Keep reaching your arms. Keep reaching your arms. So it's more of a supported back bend, but yet everything is working. It's not totally. You can imagine that you're hanging on to something and pulling your arms down and really straightening your arms. Elevate the shoulders, roll them away from your ears. And now take your feet together and let your knees open. And breathe, inhale. Maybe your hips feel a little bit more open now. You can release the hands. And just enjoy breathing. And we'll slowly release. And we'll do a nice slow curl up. So pull the belly in, really feel that, and coming all the way up. And now we'll come all the way back down. So taking a breath in, and see if you can do it without your hands. But it's always okay to use them. And let's just find ourselves in a bridge pose. So bending the knees. And whatever arm variation you like, you could hold the mat, or you could come up and kind of roll the shoulders a little closer together. They're not scrunched together. You want some space for your neck, but
But maybe you could interlace your hands if that felt nice and lift way up. And maybe you feel the tops of the hips, the hip flexors really stretching and the under the butt muscles working. So really lifting up. Make sure your neck is long. And let's come down, maybe come down onto your arms and then lift back up again. Feel those muscles working. We'll do that one more time. Come down, come up. And maybe this time you want to reach your arms. Maybe you want to lift your heels and we'll curl down. Just releasing everything, curling all the way down. And then let the arms come down. We'll finish with a little inversion, but a restorative one. So I like to use the block on the low level and just let your legs come up and straighten them as best you can. Try to find neutral with your pelvis so you're not arching, you're not tucked under, just feeling a nice stretch to the back of the legs. And stay here. You're welcome to go into your Parighasana, plow pose, shoulder stand, if that's in your practice. I'm just going to stay here for today and really keep my legs activated. And breathe. And just let go. It's really nice to have the feet above the heart in your day, reverse blood flow. Let's go ahead, take the legs down. We're going to finish with a twist. So lift the hips up, shift them to the left, and then let both knees come up. Inhale and take them over to the right. You can gently use your right hand to pull the left knee over a little more if you would like. And roll that left shoulder open. Maybe take your gaze that way. Just breathe. And then inhale, legs up. Lift up, shift the hips, knees up, knees over. Use the left hand and then really roll that right shoulder open. You could gently take your gaze to the right if that felt good. And then slowly letting everything come back. Let's find ourselves in a happy baby. You can roll around a little bit if you need to. Notice how the hips feel now. And then just release into Shavasana, where we just let everything go. Let the body go. But we are very alive in our light, our inner light. And that's the only thing resonating right now. Just feel that. And you can stay here, or I'm going to take us out and come back to seated for finishing. So let's go ahead and just start to become aware of your breath and move the fingers, the toes. And we'll pull the knees up. And then we'll find ourselves in a fetal position and pause there. And slowly make your way up to seated. So you could use your hands, slowly make your way up to seated. And then just take a moment here and notice the effects of the practice today on your body and your mind. Just sit for a moment. And then let this momentum carry over into everything you do. Namaste.